Hey guys, PotatoMcWhiskey here, and today I'm doing a video on how to use signals in the game Mashinky. Now for those of you who have played games like Mashinky that involve train management, you're probably already familiar with how signals work and what to do with them. But some of you have probably no idea how to use them, so I'm going to show you and I'm going to explain the core concepts of why we need signals in the first place. Before we talk about what signals are, why the hell do we need them? Well, it's a pretty simple problem. When a train is on a piece of track, it sort of metaphorically sends out an electrical signal that says I'm on this piece of track and no other trains can come onto this piece of track. This doesn't cause any issues if you have just a single train, but if you want multiple trains to be able to use the same rail network and not have to build your own unique rail track for every single train, you're gonna have to use signals. Signals can be found down here in the Railway Construction tab. It's the third icon over and it's called Railway Signal. You can just place them down like any other piece, but you can only place them on rail. You can't place them off of rail. So I'm going to put one down here and explain what it does. You can see this signal is a two-way signal. Trains can pass in both directions. You can tell it's a two-way signal because there are two arrows. This signal is red in this direction, so trains coming from the bottom of the screen wouldn't be able to go past this signal because this signal looks over here and says, hey, there's a train on this piece of track, and so you can't pass until this train leaves. If I were to take away this piece of track, the signal should go green, and then if I put it back, the signal will go red again. That's basically all they do. They're like little gateways. You can't pass this gate if there's a train over here. However, two-way signals are not very useful. They have very limited uses, and I'm going to demonstrate why. And here's the problem with two-way signals. I have two trains on the track now, but they can't actually go past each other. I have them paused in position, but if I were to tell them to go, all they're going to do is go up to the signal and then stop. You see, they can't pass each other, and that's why two-way signals are not very useful. The only real place that you'll find use for two-way signals is at the entrance to a depot, so that trains can go into the depot and out of the depot. Pretty much everywhere else, you're going to want to avoid using them where possible. They do have their uses, but they typically just end up with this problem. Okay, but let's say I do want two trains on this section of track. How do I solve that problem? Well, you're going to have to build more track and use one-way signals. Okay, so I've extended the station's track and you can see now there is a loop. But how do we make the trains go one direction on the loop? We use one-way signals like I mentioned earlier. All we have to do is come in where we want to put the signal, like this. If we're facing the direction we want the trains to be going, we just click on the right side of the track. If I wanted the train to be going upwards in this direction, I would click on the right side of the track as well, and now trains will go this way. I'm going to have the trains go around in this fashion. So you can see now this signal is green, meaning that trains can go through this signal in this direction. A one-directional signal will not let trains pass from the opposite direction, unless you have the train selected and click the ignore next signal when it's coming up to one of these signals. Basically what this signal is doing is it's sending an electrical signal all the way along through here and saying, is there a train on this section of track? It comes all the way around here, and until it reaches another signal or a train, it makes that determination. So for example, this signal is red, so if I delete this signal, then this signal over here should go red as well. And that's how it works. Using signals segments your rail into different sections to allow multiple trains to use them at the same time. You can see here that this is red. If I place another signal over here, this will go green and this one will be red. I recommend using many signals, generally spaced somewhere between 3 to 6 tiles apart in order to increase the flow of your traffic. I'm going to use signals at regular intervals here to demonstrate. And so now you can see as a train passes through a signal, it goes red, and then once the back of the train is fully clear of the signal, the previous signal goes green again. You can see this here. When the back of this train goes through here, this one will go green, and there you go. This allows you to have a lot of trains on the same section of track. Whereas if you didn't use signals, in particular one-way signals, you would have a lot of trouble getting a lot of trains on here. I'm going to go through and I'm going to fill this with trains just to show you how many you can get on here using signals. And so here I'm demonstrating this network at its maximum capacity. Now it's not really very efficient because trains have trouble moving through it, but they will still move as long as they wait for each other to clear the signals. There are some downsides to this though. Only one train can move at a time because I've saturated it to maximum. And that demonstrates an important limitation of signals. You can only have as many trains as signals you have on a piece of track, minus 1. This also kind of depends on the length of the distance between the signals. You can see here, technically this train is overlapping 2 signals at once. If I were to space these out with the exact length of the trains, you could probably cram a couple extra trains on this track. Okay, so now we've introduced you to one-way signals, how about we see some practical examples of how to use these in a two-way network. So here we have a terminal style station. Trains come into the station, stop, and then turn around and return along the same piece of track. There's some major problems with this that I'm going to demonstrate with these trains. Realistically, even though we have 2 pieces of rail, we can only serve 2 trains. This is again the problem with two-way rail pieces, and I'm going to show you how to fix this problem and increase the number of trains that you can have in this network. The very first thing you're going to want to do is create crossovers between both sides of the rail, like this. Now without signals, this would mean you could only have a single train on this network, but using signals it'll mean you can have a lot more trains. I'll do the same crossover at the other station. Now that we have our crossovers, how do we convert this into something that can handle a high throughput of trains? The first thing you're going to do is you're going to place signals after each intersection. You're going to place the railway that you want the trains to come into the station on the right hand side of your screen, and the railway you want your trains to come out of the station on the left hand side of the screen. Then all you have to do is remember to click on the outside of the tiles where the signals are with the signal tool selected in order to set this up. Now trains will come into the station in only this direction and out of the station in this direction. You can see it's a very simple principle. You click once on the rail and then once to the right. You can also use just a double clicking system on the outside, that works too. But generally speaking, it's a fairly simple rule to follow that will make your rail networks one directional. These are essentially right hand drives, so the train will come along here. It'll go into the station. It'll come out, and it'll go out along this way. This way, each set of rail is only servicing trains in one direction, meaning we can handle a lot of trains going between these stations. I'm going to clone these trains and show you a lot of them going through this network. And so now you can see that trains are going to go out on the right hand track and come in on the left hand track, or if you're facing this way, it's come in on the right hand track and out on the left. It's essentially just a right-hand drive rule that I use for all my railroads. It's incredibly useful to do this, and I recommend it for everybody. However, there is a little bit of a problem here, and you probably just caught it. As a train is leaving, even though technically this train has a perfectly clear path into the station, it'll stop at this signal right here. And so we can change this a little bit to make it a little bit more efficient with regards to traffic flow. And here's the perfect demonstration of the problem. This train could have easily made its way into the second platform, but it didn't because this train was still occupying this signal. So how do you fix that? Well, it's actually quite easy. So if we want more than one train to be able to use a station, we need to also set up this X with these one-way signals like this. This signal here creates a loop with this section of track saying a train can go in through here. This signal will allow a train to go this way. As you can see, the train will turn. This train will wait and continue. This allows trains to occupy both stations. I haven't really been able to make more than 2 stations work very well. It seems like 2 stations is about the best way you can do it. I've had 3 working, but the trains unload and load so quickly that it doesn't really seem to have an impact. Just to quickly go over the construction of this formation so that you can do it in your own games, if you want to use a terminal style station, basically all you need is 2 tracks 5 long. You move 1 track in and then cross over to the other side's 1 track in, and then you mirror it on the other side. Then with the station towards the top of your screen, you're going to place signals in this formation. Now moving counterclockwise around these tiles, you're going to click on the outside of each signal. Now your traffic can easily flow into both station platforms and then flow out without any issues at all. This is a slightly more efficient design than just having a single station that would connect out. It's not a huge improvement, but I kind of really like seeing trains go into two sections, and I hope you'll enjoy it too. For anybody who's struggling to understand how signals work, I've made this very simple demonstration of a loop. The trains will go up until they reach a red signal, and then stop. As a train enters into a safe section of track, this train now finds it safe to move. This is a decent implementation of it, but again, we can improve it by adding more signals. All we have to do is place some extra signals, and now the trains will move much more smoothly without ever having to really stop. And there you go. That's been a pretty basic tutorial on how to use signals. I will be doing more tutorials on how to use signals in advanced applications like using large intersections and stuff like that, but the signals in this game so far are relatively simple. You can do some fairly complex things with them if you play with the terrain elevation and different intersecting levels of track and all that sort of stuff, but generally speaking you're not going to be able to do that much without some more advanced types of signals that I hope the developer will implement into the future. I hope you guys have found this helpful for explaining how signals work and how to use them properly, how to use them efficiently, and building a network that has a minimum amount of stoppage and traffic. I'm PotatoMcWhiskey, and thank you guys very much for watching my tutorial. I hope you guys found it helpful, and I appreciate you guys for giving me any feedback that you can in improving this tutorial in the future. I love you all very much, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.